Assalamualaikum to our beloved lecturer and fellow friends. Today we will present about case 19. These are the 5 members of our team: Nurul Atikah binti Muhammad Halimi, Nur Syarah Najwa binti Abdullah, Mariana Akilah binti Muhammad Nur, Faizatul Husna binti Rashid, and Nabihah binti Ahmad Lutfi.
First thing first, we have company's background of this case study related to SM Holistic Living Academy. Okay, for your information, SM stands for the name of the owner, Sandhya Marga, and it is mainly and majoring in the field of education, especially in holistic, traditional health and therapies. Apart from that, it is also to guide the students to have and to be invaluable part of the society through various social activities. And lastly, the main focus of this academy is to help the student to have a better future and a happier lifestyles. We are going to look at the main or key issues of this case study. Firstly, as I mentioned before, Sandhya, who is the owner or the principal of this academy, intends to open a new healthy diet restaurant to expand and attract more students coming to its academy. It is to complement its holistic wellness activities together with exploring in the food and beverage industry. As for the location, Sandhya has targeting vegetarian restaurants around Klang Valley, and it is achievable either through combination of internal growth or acquisition or possible strategic alliance. For the two potential targets, it includes traditional home-style restaurant THSR and also village fusion. To continue our discussion, we are going to analyze the financial position of both THSR and Village Fusion. Okay, so for liquidity, we choose to use the current ratio formula, which is current asset divided by current liability. Okay, to compare, THSR has 1 as the ratio, and for the Village Fusion, and we will get 5.38 of its current ratio. Okay, clearly, we can see that Village Fusion is a stable business since the current ratio is greater than 1, and also it is more safe to meet its current obligation with its current asset compared to THSR, which is not as stable since the current ratio is only 1. Okay, secondly, we are going to use profitability ratio to look on the financial position of both restaurants. For the formula, operating profit margin is calculated by EBIT, which is earning before interest or tax, divided by revenue. For THSR, we get 8.4%, while Village Fusion, we get 30.59%. Since there is a huge difference between the calculation of the operating profit margin, we can see again that Village Fusion is a well-managed company and less risky compared to THSR. This is because it can pay its fixed costs without worry. Okay, so now we are going to calculate for asset turnover ratio, which indicates that how companies use their assets to generate sales. Okay, the formula is revenue we divide by the total assets minus current liability. Okay, so for THSR, we will get 3.57. Okay, for Village Fusion, we will get 7.41. Okay, for asset turnover ratio, the higher, the better. So, as we can see here, Village Fusion has higher asset turnover ratio compared to THSR. And we can conclude that it efficiently uses its asset to generate more revenue. Okay, now we move to return on capital employed. So, for the formula, we are going to use the one that we calculated before, which is the operating profit margin multiplied with the asset turnover ratio. Okay, so for THSR, we will get 30%, while Village Fusion is, we will get 227% of its return on capital employed. Okay, again, we can see here that Village Fusion has a large percentage of return on capital employed, which means that it fully capitalizes its capital to generate profit. Well, it is good since higher profit will benefit the stakeholders of the company. And lastly, we have solvency ratio, which we will use gearing ratio. For For the formula, we will calculate by debt divided by debt plus equity. For THSR, we calculate and we will get 28.57%, which indicates that it still has a low debt and it is optimal. For Village Fusion, the gearing ratio is 0 because it is fully financed by equity and it is more risky. But low debt indicates that the company can prevent themselves from the financial distress.
I'm going to start with the analyzation of both restaurants' non-financial performance. Okay, so for THSR, the restaurant does not only provide catering for in-house service, but also for events and functions which can be in a large scale per order. The restaurant able to provide an efficient service since they have an effective front desk team which can give a good first impression to the customers. The restaurant, however, has a problem where they are unable to maintain the quality of the food provided, and this leads to declining in sales. The customers usually will expect the similar quality of taste whenever they come to the same restaurant, and the disability for the restaurant to do so will lead to a customer dissatisfaction. As for Village Fusion, they caters food to a number of offices near to the restaurant. The restaurant only operates up to 25 working days monthly, and this actually could lead to the customers turning to the competitors during their closing day. The restaurant able to operate well considering they able to maintain the quality of the food provided, and they always ensure that there is no wastage of foods at the end of each working day. This actually shows how good they are in maintaining and also managing their resources. The second one is business policy. THSR use cash basis for their in-house sales, which allows them to have an immediate cash to operate the business. But for event catering service, they use credit management where they allow the customers to pay the balance of the deposit, but only up to 5 working days. Compared to Village Fusion, 20% of their sales is on credit, and the payment is not collected immediately but at the end of each month. This restaurant have more receivables compared to THSR. This restaurant is managed in a very conservative way regarding their financial and also their concept. Next is customer satisfaction. Just like how I mentioned before, THSR is currently facing with declining in sales due to their inability to maintain the quality of the foods. This actually resulted from the low satisfaction from the customers, and the monthly sales of the restaurant has declining in the past year, causing concern to the owner of the restaurant. Village Fusion, on the other hand, able to satisfy and ease their customers since they able to make an order during their working hours, since Village Fusion provided food for a number of offices around their restaurant. Since this restaurant also provides a longer due for credit management, it actually will attract more customers to purchase with them. Okay, the last one is the management of the restaurant. THSR able to provide an effective front desk team that shows courtesy in serving the customers. However, they fail to manage their kitchen staffs or chefs efficiently, which could affect the food's quality of the restaurant. Village Fusion, in the opposite, seems much more capable in managing the restaurant, considering how the owner is an experienced accountant. So the owner seems much more capable in estimating or forecasting the financial outcome and also make a financial decision which could benefit the restaurant as a whole. So now I'm going to sum up the performance of both restaurants, THSR and Village Fusion. THSR has a low stability in financial performance, but it has small average. Because the restaurant has both long-term liability and also equity. This could resulting to a lower cost of financing since debt is cheaper than equity. However, debt financing may be risky if the business has an inconsistent cash flow. And considering how THSR has a low stability in financial performance, this might actually affect them negatively. On the other hand, Village Fusion seems to have a much more stability in financial performance, and they also able to avoid financial distress since the restaurant is fully financed by equity. Equity finance is costly and riskier than that,
but it requires no payment obligation. Next, DHSR has a good service quality since they have an effective front desk team which shows courtesy to the customers. Village Fusion also has a good management benefited from an experienced accountant as the owner. Overall, DHSR's performance seems to be declining and affected, unlike Village Fusion, where they seems to be performing well and is likely to be able to continue in a foreseeable future.
Now, we are going to focus on the main aspects to make an investment in one of the restaurants. Firstly, we have ROI. ROI is return on investment, or how the investors will expect to get when they invest. That is why the rule is they will invest in the company that is high risk, because high risk will give a higher return. So we can see here that Village Fusion is more risky since it is fully equity finance. Okay, so we have tax implication. Okay, tax implication where we can see that the interest is tax deductible, and that is why it is beneficial. But when the loan repayment is too high, therefore the return will be lower. So it is very important to indicate the tax implication in order to secure a high net after tax return. Okay, the third one, we have liquidity. We need to consider which one of the company that we will have more assets to convert into cash, because spare cash is important for emergency purposes. This is to prevent any problem arise in the future. Lastly, we need to consider which one of the restaurants that have a higher profit. High profit will give a higher return to the investor, and also it will prevent the company to have a financial distress, and they will still be stable even for a foreseeable future.
The next aspect that the company should consider is by looking at the value of the business. Firstly, by looking at the market capitalization. It can be used to evaluate the market value of the outstanding shares of a company. The higher the value of the restaurant, it will have a better opportunity for potential future investment. Sandia should consider to invest in an undervalued company in order to avoid loss from the acquisition. Again, next, the value of the restaurant can be determined by using a free cash flow. A positive free cash flow indicates that the company has plenty of potential for future growth. It also will show that the restaurant will be able to generate more cash, which is important to pursue its future growth.
The first one is the strengths of SMHLA. The strength is they hired highly trained tutors and facilitators to guide the students in their studies. Next, the founder, Sandia, has broad experience and is very passionate into natural therapies. The third one is SMHLA provide globally recognized certificates in the field of holistic wellness. And the last one is SMHLA also provide clinical training to their students with the affiliation of the hospitals and clinics. The next one is the weaknesses. SMHLA find it difficult in placing their students for appropriate internship practice. The next one is SMHLA has zero experience in running a restaurant business. And the last one is time and financial constraints, since SMHLA is really concerned with these two factors. The next one is the opportunities. SMHLA may conduct their short courses and also workshops virtually. Nowadays, online classes has been a new norm since participants are able to gain knowledge anytime and anywhere. The next one is SMHLA should expand their product range. As an example, SMHLA can open a wellness spa since they has a highly trained staffs. The company can make use of these staffs to train new workers of the spa. And the last one is the threats to SMHLA. There are still many customers that doesn't aware of the danger of chemical medicine. Therefore, they still prefer those chemical medicine since they are not exposed to the beauty of traditional therapies. And lastly, younger generation nowadays are less interested in traditional therapies because they think it is outdated. Hence, their interest switched to modern therapies.
I continue the presentations with internal or organic growth. Internal growth is the growth within the organizations by using internal resources. The internal growth is the growth that a company achieves by increasing the output and enhancing the sales internally. Internal growth occurs when a business decides to expand its own activities by launching a new product or entering a new market. Business do this in order to improve their chances of increasing their customers, revenues, and profits. Strategies for organic growth include optimizations of processes, reallocations of resources, and lastly, a new product offerings. Next is advantages of internal growth. First advantages of internal growth is a business can maintain its own value without interference from stakeholders since internal growth only involves one party. Next is company able to get benefits from economic of scale and lower average cost since internal growth encourage higher productions due to increasing output and enhancing sales internally. Next is culture management. Since organic growth allows new activities to be created in the existing culture environments, it will reduce the risk of culture clash since internal growth only involves internal, not external party. It is commonly difficulty that will be faced by acquisitions and strategic alliance. Disadvantages of internal growth. The first disadvantages of internal growth is growth achieved maybe depends on the growth of overall market. Next is slower growth. Slow growth happens due to the company relies only on internal resources. It is in contrast to public alliance and acquisitions since public alliance and acquisitions integrates the resources, markets and customer of two parties. So, internal growth may be disadvantageous for shareholders who may prefer more rapid growth of revenues and profits. Next is acquisitions. Acquisition is when a company purchases most or all of other companies' assets to gain controls of the company. Is why company make acquisitions. The first reason why company make acquisitions is as a way to enter a foreign market. If a company want to expand its operations to another country, it is the easiest way to enter a foreign market via acquisitions. Secondly, is reduce access capacity and decrease competitions. If there is too much competitions or supply, a company may look to acquire another companies to reduce its access capacity, eliminates the competitions, and lastly focus on the most productive providers. Lastly is to gain a new technology. Sometimes it is more cost efficiency to purchase other company that already has implemented the new technology successfully compare the company want to spend on developing the new technology itself. Next is advantages of acquisitions. The first advantages of acquisitions is increasing market power when the acquirer can buy their competitors to increase the market share. Second advantages of acquisition is new resources competencies. A company can choose to take over other companies to gain competencies and resources that company doesn't hold currently. Doing so can provide many benefits to the company such as rapid growth in revenues or an improvement in the long-term financial positions, which makes the raising capital for growth strategies more easier. Lastly is diversifications. The acquirer can cover losses in one businesses by buying other companies that is not in the same supply chain. I continue with disadvantages of acquisitions. The first disadvantages of acquisition is integrations issue, which is company culture clash may happen or activities of the old organizations may not mesh as well as anticipated when forming a newly combined entity. Second disadvantages of acquisition is unrelated diversifications. When an acquisition brings together diverse product or service line, there can be difficulties in managing the resources and competencies. Management of employees and department can face extreme hurdles and time necessary to address such issues. Lastly is poor match partner. Business owner who does not seek professional advice in identifying a potential company for acquisitions may target a business that brings too many challenges to the organizations. And as a result, a failed organization acquisitions will happen and will affect the healthy organization.
The next method that SMHLA is considering to pursue its growth is strategic alliance. Strategic alliance is the agreement between two or more organizations to work together to achieve the common objectives where the goals cannot be achieved by one party alone. According to the article in IB Business Journal, there are 5 factors that are needed in order for the alliance to be successful. Number 1 is critical to the success of a core business goal and objectives. An alliance should be tied to the core business objectives where both parties should have common goal to begin with. Number 2 is, it is critical to a development or maintenance of a core competency or other source of competitive advantage. Another way in which an alliance can be proved to be strategic is to play a key role in developing or protecting a firm's competitive advantage. The most frequent type of competitive strategic alliance is a learning alliance. Learning alliances work best when the goals are publicly shared and future competition is uncertain. The third one is blocking a competitive threat. An alliance can be strategic even when it fails to gain competitive advantage. In the absence of competitiveness will create a competitive disadvantage in related primary segments in a market which the firm competes, and it is desirable to bring competitiveness to the secondary segment in the market. Number 4 is creates or maintains strategic choices for the firm. An alliance that is currently unnecessary might be fundamental to the firm in order to achieve a business objectives in the future. The last one is mitigates a significant risk to the business. The nature of the risk and the potential impact on the underlying business objectives are the major factors of whether or not an agreement is truly strategic when the objective of an alliance is to mitigate risk. Now, I will explain some advantages of strategic alliance. A business that has successful product or services might want to introduce new products into the market. However, the company might face lack financial resources or expertise due to little knowledge regarding what the customer needs, marketing skills, or in which distribution channel should be chosen. Thus, a strategic alliance is the way out to this problem. Number 2 is sharing of resources and expertise. Strategic alliance allow firms to pool resources. What's best that both companies can offer? An alliance between organizations will complement each other towards achieving the same goal. For example, SMHLA wants to open a restaurant, but they doesn't have this cooking skill or even serving the customers. So, SMHLA can create an alliance with THSR and open a new restaurant together since THSR owns the skills. And the last one is develop new technologies. In a strategic alliance, a business may partner up with one of its competitors to make use of each other's resources in achieving dual success. Eventually, this will create a significant competitive advantage over other competitors and helps in developing new technologies by combining technological expertise that can further carry their business from their competitors. However, a strategic alliance also contributes to some drawbacks. Number 1 is lack of control. When an alliance is created, the degree of control over how the business runs will be affected since both companies doesn't have the knowledge or expertise about each other's business. For example, an alliance was created between SMHLA and Village Fusion. The manager of SMHLA is not responsible in hiring or training the chefs, and therefore they have no influence over how Village Fusion perform their duties. Number 2 is liability. If the alliance faces any problems, both parties will be held liable despite of who causes the problems. Even if your company is found to be not guilty in the court, you still have to bear the risk that your company's reputation has been tarnished and have to pay large legal fees. And the last one is unequal benefits. Even though there is a mutual agreement between both companies, there is no assurance that the alliance will give benefits to the company. Moreover, it is not necessary for both companies to have equal benefits because sometimes one party earns greater benefits than the other.
Next is which method should SMHLA use? In context of SMHLA's development, it should consider to doing or choosing a strategic alliance with Village Fusions. This is because Village Fusion has a better and stable financial conditions compared to THSR. SMHLA does not have expertise in running a restaurant business, while Village Fusion has better experience, so they will eventually complement each other's need in achieving the common objective. Moreover, strategic alliance will help to reduce the cost and risk because both organizations can share their resources and expertise. Lastly, SMHLA should consider using loan in acquiring village visions via strategic alliance because it can help SMHLA to increase its gearing ratio.
I will continue the presentation by discussing about corporate social responsibility. CSR is the continuing commitment by business to behave ethically and contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce and their families as well as of the local community and society at large. Besides providing the required certificate skills and knowledge training, SM Hall is also active in doing CSR as they have strong belief in serving others to help create a better world for everyone living in this world. Some of projects that they are active in are: first, Paw Prints Natural Rescue. This is a project to help injured stray animals by using natural and alternative methods of healing as well as finding home for them. Second, Women's Life Force in Action. This is to offer various forms of support to grieving women who have been subjected to physical or emotional abuse. And the third one is Character Building Program for Kids. This helps children to grow into thinkers who develop unconditional love for other beings by teaching the importance of self-empowerment, compassion for others, and rational thinking. CSR is becoming more important for investors because they are more concerned about where and how their money is invested. However, there are different types of investors, which are short-term investors and long-term investors. Thus, these investors have different interest perspectives. As these two different types of investors have different expectations, hence this may affect SM holistic attitude towards CSR. Short-term investors expect to gain profit as much as they can in short period, as the CSR could give more benefits to investors in a longer period. Short-term investors may be not interested to invest in a company which focusing on CSR activities rather than focusing on making profit. They would prefer company to invest the money they contributed on business purposes as they only keep their investment to a same company in a short period of time. So, if SM Holistic want to attract many short-term investors, they might want to focus on the services that they provide or investing in some other companies that can give them profit in order to gain profit rather than focusing on CSR activities. For long-term investors, they expect the investment to increase in value in the future. So, SM Holistic might prefer to actively be involved in CSR activities because companies that perform consistently in the CSR will get the benefit in long term. This is because CSR can maintain harmonious relationships between the company and stakeholders. From the harmonious relationship that will give benefit to the company can achieve sustainability. Besides, CSR also speaks the good image of the company to the public in a longer period. These situations make the long-term investors interested to invest in the company because they believe this will affect the investment where the value of the company could increase in the future. Next, I will continue with ethical considerations. The issue that I want to highlight here is the unmet needs of consumers in food and beverages industry due to unethical productions. As we all know, chemicals are very important structure for everything in the world. Same goes to food. Chemical on food is largely harmless and often desirable. For example, nutrients such as carbohydrate, protein, fats, and fiber are composed of chemical compounds. Many of these occur naturally and contribute both to a rounded diet and to our eating experience. However, chemicals can have a variety of toxicological properties, some of which might cause effects in humans and animals. Usually, these are not harmful unless we are exposed to them for a long time at a high level. Unfortunately, nowadays there are many unethical productions in food industry. For example, food adulteration. Food adulteration is a process of adding unwanted substances to the food with a similar appearance or color for making profits. We can see in the usage of chemical substances such as copper sulfate on vegetable to make it look fresh and last longer. Other than that, plumping or injecting chemical and hormones to chickens to get a healthier look. These situations show unethical behavior in the food industry, and this will end up make the consumers sick because the excessive chemical substances in their body when they consume the food which lead to some serious disease such as cancer. In order to ensure that SM Holistic have a good ethics in running own restaurant in the future, SM Holistic should use real organic ingredients and maintain the quality to prepare their menus, as this will show their integrity in doing the business. In order to ensure that they get the best quality of organic ingredients, SM Holistic should find the best suppliers that provide what they want. Besides, SM Holistic must have food safety plan where all control methods and procedures are being laid out in detail in that plan. In other words, SM Holistic should follow all the rules that stated in the Food Act 1983 and the Food Regulation 1985. These are the Malaysian food legislations that form the backbone of the food safety program, where SM Holistic must undergo a food safety assessment so that they can verify whether their foods are safe or not. As SM Holistic want to open a healthy diet restaurant through this food safety assessment, they can ensure if there are any chemical substances are found not to present an appreciable health risk to consumers. By doing these actions, it shows that SM Holistic applies business ethics in running their business and also has ethical considerations towards society, where they did not run their business for profit alone.
As a conclusion, SMHLA should invest in Village Fusion due to its stability in financial performance, and the business is doing much better compared to THSR. And the best method for SMHLA to consider in acquiring Village Fusion is to use strategic alliance.